Hello, everyone. This is the Child and Family Wellbeing Task Force. It's June 23rd. I am very excited to be here. My presence was not certain because I'm getting called for jury duty, but my number didn't come up, so we'll see. Let's start off with just acknowledging that we are right at quorum right now. So we are very hopeful that no one has to pop off early. If you could pop that into the chat, because we do have to stop the meeting and wrap things up if we lose quorum, and we're hopeful that everyone can stay through to the end of the meeting. But let's start out with our land acknowledgement and task force purposes. We'll do some quick housekeeping, get the minutes approved, go over our agenda, and do the community shares and shout outs. So I will go now to the land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are here today on the ancestral homelands of Indigenous peoples who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. In particular, the Lactamish people, who we recognize today to be the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack tribe, and Semiahmoo. May we be mindful of the inherent owners of this land, our children, who are the future, our future stewards of the land and advocates for the generation to come. May that truth guide our work and efforts to improve the well-being of all families and children, native and non-native, living in this beautiful county. This land acknowledgement is not meant to be a substitute for authentic relationship building and understanding. It is meant to introduce us to one way we can show respect and honor for the sacrifices of the first people of this land. Please join me in expressing the deepest respect for our Indigenous neighbors and gratitude for the enduring stewardship of our shared lands and waterways. Okay, reminder of the task force purpose. The task force will continually review Whatcom governmental impacts on children and families and make specific recommendations for improvements for all departments. All right, let's start with our housekeeping matters. Let's get last meeting's minutes approved. Allison, you said last time we don't follow Robert's rules, so remind me, does that mean we need a motion and a second?
No.
We don't. So I'll just call for approval of the minutes. Actually, what I'll call for, does anyone have any comments on the minutes or suggested changes? Okay, seeing no response, then I will call for approval of the minutes, and I believe that the preference is that we drop it in the chat.
Thank you. Yes. We just need a majority, so. Okay, those are approved. And everyone, can you make sure you have your first and last names too, just so we can make sure we're seeing the right people on our chat as well. All right, we're good, Sally. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Meeting evaluation input. I'll be honest, I get a little confused on what we're supposed to do there. I know that, I think this is where, Allison, if you can, you drop into the chat at least our agreements on how we're operating. Testify.
The evaluation school link is on the chat if anyone for folks can access for you. Yeah.
Thanks. All right, let's do community shares and shout outs. I'm gonna scratch that. I'm gonna do our agenda overview. So we get our Healthy Children's Fund update from Sarah. We get our Healthy Children's Fund audit update from Jill. We get something I'm very excited about, and even more excited given that I asked them at an unbelievably late hour. But James and Angelique are here to talk about the Healthy Children's Fund drop-in care program. I shouldn't call it that the grant that they obtained from the Healthy Children's Fund for purposes of the drop-in care. Kayla from the executive's office, along with Jill, is of course with the executive's office as well, will provide new jail development presentation. We'll have work group updates. We're going to have another task force tabling opportunity, and a task force issues update from Colton. So with that all being said, community shares and shout outs. People have vacation brain, don't they? First day of summer, it happened. All right.
Oh,
Here,
I'll have
okay.
Oops. I don't need to shout that out. I didn't need to unmute myself that way. I just wanted to let folks know that over on Father's Day, the Cascadia Daily highlighted a father's peer support group that is facilitated by two Whatcom County fathers locally, and they did a great job explaining that. And this peer support group is supported through the Perinatal Mental Health Task Force. And we got an email from another local parent who's a parent of teens who just said he really wished he had had something like that when his kids were little, and was interested in providing support to fathers of teens as well. So great shout out. Megan Juneman's husband, Nick, is one of the dad facilitators for this group. Along with Gabe Menino, they meet once a month at the Ferndale Fire Station number 41.
Awesome. And there's some additional stuff in the chat. Great. All right, well, let's get right to it. Healthy Children's Fund update and rapid survey, Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. Hi, everyone. So nice to see you. I hope you're enjoying the sprinkling of summertime. I dropped our oldest off at a wild Whatcom camp this morning, and I will be honest, I was extremely jealous. I was like, why isn't anyone dropping me off at summer camp today? This sounds amazing. So, that vibe is still floating through me today, but anyway, really special stuff happening out there during the summer. I feel like our community, although there's so many kids who, still need care, there are also so many miracles happening, I think, across our community to make sure we can all be where we need to be and kids are in safe, wonderful places. So, in addition to all the regular things we do in our work, our day-to-day, we've also been working on facilitating a hiring process over the last month, which, as you know, for those of you who've done it, can be really time consuming. We had a lot of applicants, and it's been really exciting to go through all those folks and get to vet people for the final position. As well, we've just been having fun preparing and thinking about how we can best participate in events happening this summer, like Kids Fest and the Early Childhood Resource Fair that you're going to hear more about. And in addition, the team and I attended a site visit with Best Starts for Kids in King County, which was really awesome. It was hosted by the Children's Funding Project. And it was really great, frankly, for us to see all the awesome things we're doing here. We left feeling extremely proud. There were adjustments that we have made within 18 months of our program that they weren't making until they are 4 or 5 years in. And so I did feel extremely proud of the work we're doing and how iterative our team is. I'm committed to doing what's best for kids. And that's how I left. In terms of future council presentations, I'm presenting tomorrow to County Council. We've gotten a lot of really great questions from them about how we support childcare family home providers. So for those folks who have small businesses within their homes, providing childcare. And so really excited to share with them about ways in which the Healthy Children's Fund already has and will support in-home care providers, because we really can't expand childcare without them. as well as I'll be sharing with them a draft of the 25-26 implementation plan that the implementation team worked on, and then also chatting with them about our subsidy. And so if you remember, we had a really in-depth meeting with them around our subsidy plan, and kind of raising that threshold to 85% of the state median income. I was kind of resting on the state also bumping up their working connections, and they didn't do that. And so kind of going back to council with my new recommendation, updating on them on that. So looking forward to that. And then in addition, in July, I'm going to have a much more lengthy, about a 90-minute work session with council, the first of many conversations over the next few months regarding the Healthy Children's Fund. So really excited to get them on board and have them more invested in our work, because I think we're only stronger together. The Healthy Children's Fund subcommittee for this task force did not meet in the month of June. So I don't have anything to update there. And I did provide, I'm not going to go through it, but just a more thorough timeline of what's happening with the implementation plan updates, so you can see that. And then some staffing updates. So I mentioned briefly, but we do believe that we're going to have a new person starting on July 7th for the early learning and care position. We're really, really thrilled about that. I'm excited to announce to everyone who that is. In addition, we have a rapid survey that's currently open. And I'm going to put, when I'm done here chatting with you all, I'll put the link in the chat so you can all see the survey, but also send it out to your networks. This survey is really focused on kind of parenting supports, what families want and need, as well as their experiences with material hardship. So things like housing, food, utilities, healthcare, clothing, and hygiene. And some of the things I wanted to share with you, which is so cool, is that I just got an update this morning from Rapid, and we have already had 475 people complete this survey, which is huge. 300 thanks, Christy. I'm like having fun watching your expression. 333 of those are new folks. And so that means about 142 of them are repeats. So pretty amazing. That means between the 3 rapid surveys, we have had over 1,100 parents of kids under the age of 6 share their feedback, which is pretty incredible. This last implementation team meeting on Friday, we just started to dive into the data that we received from the first 2 reports. And our goal is that our team, Hunter, is working on a report to share about what parents are saying in the rapid survey come this fall. So you'll see some of those voices. But what we're also hoping to do is share the data. We know that other community organizations would really benefit from this information. And so we want to make sure everybody has it. And let's see. Oh, lastly, I mentioned it last time, but I want to mention it again, is we have hired a videographer to help us share the story of the Healthy Children's Fund and its impact on our community. In my report, there is an online form link, and we'd love it if you've heard of something that's happening in your community because of the Healthy Children's Fund, or there's a need in your community that you know could be filled by it. Please be sure to have complete this form, and Brian will work on that storytelling with you. But I feel like lots of things kind of happening around here, continuing to work on our capital RFP and the subsidy RFP. And I'm just continually impressed with my team's commitment to the mission and the work we're doing. And I'm excited to see, the results of the rapid survey and what parents are asking for really align with the strategies and the work that we're doing here in Whatcom County. So pretty awesome.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Oh,
thanks.
sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
What time are you presenting to council tomorrow if people wanted to be able to tune in?
I can't, I'll pull it up. I think it's 10:30, but I don't want to say, so I'll put it in the
Okay.
chat just to be sure.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
And I feel like someone was saying something when I started to talk, so if I interrupted someone.
Yeah.
Move.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, no, I was just going to say, Christy says like telling the story of impact so important. I agree. Yeah. It's pretty cool. We actually it was neat, in the last survey, we had a lot of parents comment about how like building community is something that they really need. They want to have more fellow parents who are in those early stages of parenting young kids or kids with disabilities or kids who have certain kind of affinity needs. And it's like perfect timing because we have this RFP that just launched, like Al said, specifically around building up peer support across the county. So it's nice to feel validated in that work.
And I think we have a comment in the chat or a question from Jen Wright, I believe, about wondering, do you want to ask that question, Jen, if you're on, or just have Sarah look at it in the chat and respond to you? Or respond? So her question is if task force leadership and membership in general have been asked to co-present and participate in the longer meeting. I'm assuming that might be for the implementation meeting. She knows it's been our longstanding tradition. She can't speak at the moment, so
Okay.
we're chat question.
Yeah, so far, we've had child and family wellbeing task force members who are part of the implementation team that have built out the draft plan, as well as, task force members, of course, have been able to comment on the feedback, which we thanks folks who filled out that survey for the plan. It's not in our plan right now to have task force members co-facilitate around the implementation plan conversation.
Could it be, is her next?
A good question. If people wanted, my feeling is that the Child and Family Wellbeing Task Force role is to provide oversight around the evaluation. And so I would want that to continue to be the role. I could see us potentially having implementation team members participate in the facilitation or presentation, if that's something that we decide to do, but I'm not sure that specifically. Okay, cool, great. Thanks, Jen.
Awesome. All right, well, with a full 5 minutes ahead of schedule, I now hand the talking baton to Jill to talk about the audit update.
Great. Hi, everybody. Jill Boudreau here with the exec's office. And then, Sarah, I have my slides up. Do you want me to just share them? Or would you, I didn't know if you guys were prepared.
Yeah,
Okay,
please, go for
I'll
it.
just do that.
We'll make you a co-host, Jill.
It let me just do it, so I just did it, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. So I like to use slides. It kind of just helps me keep oriented to what we're working on. So I'm here to just give kind of a quick update on the external evaluation audit. And so just kind of framing out what we're doing here is according to the ordinance. There is language that says specifically that there will be an external evaluation, someone contracted by the executive's office to come and do evaluation. So it says that they'll collect and review data and evaluate progress toward achieving the goals and strategies adopted in section 3 of the ordinance, collect and report on feedback from stakeholders, including users and providers, include qualitative and quantitative sources, and include recommendations for improvement or adjustments. So that's sort of the basis of how we started to look at how we were going to contract. And then last year, there was a work done and accepted from Village Reach with a whole bunch of folks involved in that. And what we're doing is we're using that plan, we're using the content of the plan. The way that it was organized felt a little bit confusing. So, but we're using all of the same types of questions that were written into that plan. It's based on results-based accountability framework and methodology. And so the questions of how much did we do, how well did we do it, and is anyone better off? I absolutely love using plain language. It's something that I think our community can really relate to and understand of what we were evaluating and how well did we do? I just love it. In that it outlined different data sources and methodology. There's reports and data from fund recipients, the contracts that have already been executed. There's financial data, of course, from the county. There's feedback. There's different documents, policies and procedures, contracts that were written up, RFPs that were completed, budget documents, council memos, and presentations. So there's a lot of data sources to take a look for this evaluation. And then the qualitative deep dives with users, service providers, staff, policymakers, community members like all of you in the task force. So that's like the framework of writing a scope in order to then find an evaluator to come help us. So that was all completed. This was the scope of work was all published to the MRSC SmallWorks roster last week. Our deadline for proposals on this is June 14. Selection notification made by July 11, and we intend to get that contract on the council agenda on August 6. Since they only have one meeting in August, we want to make sure that gets on there. And so if you're interested in helping to score the responses, please let me know. We want to line everybody up that wants to be involved so that they are ready to work on that July 15, 16, and 17, so we can get that through and move into contract negotiations. So that's what I've got for my updates, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm gonna ask a really obvious question, Jill, that I'm sure
Okay,
everyone
sure.
already knows. But remind me, when I'm looking at the ordinance, this is the every other year qualified independent auditor?
Yeah.
Okay, and was
Yes.
Village Voice that same thing? So then this report, we're contracting now for a report to be due in 2026 because the last one was 2024.
So I think there's been some different interpretation on every other year. So for when I was looking at it, the ordinance was passed, of course, in 2022, but the fund really wasn't established until 23 with tax collections and all of that. So I look at it 25 as every other year. And so the report will be done by the end of this year, the end of December.
Can I add
Okay.
in something too, Jill, if that's okay?
Yeah, if that's
So-
what we were asking. Sorry.
So Sally, the Village Reach was actually a plan about how we were gonna evaluate. Like, what does evaluation look
Oh,
like?
thank you. Okay.
Yes, and then what Jill's talking about is we're actually fielding applications to hire someone to do an external audit of the health department and the county in terms of our work with the Healthy Children's Fund. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and I guess I say that in part for newer members too, since I joined last year. So I was here a little bit with Village Voices, so at that point I
Mhm.
was just still learning. So then hopefully that clarifies for our new members too, what Village Voice was, since it's a third party, and what we're doing now.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sally.
And I would,
And then I guess just because Vesela's not here to ask the question, I will. How much are you planning on allocating for the cost of this contract?
So according to the ordinance, we can spend up to 3% of the funding to go to evaluation. We specifically did not put a dollar amount in the request because we don't want it to be limited at all. We feel like we need people to propose what they need in order to do a thorough evaluation. So, but the up to 3% is available. So.
and I would just add, because like you said, Sally, there's some new folks here. There's so much rigorous evaluation with the Healthy Children's Fund. And so you'll hear us talk about it in a lot of different ways. We have an internal evaluator, Hunter Plucky Bomb, who's incredible, who does evaluation on internally, because although we're committed, of course, by the ordinance and also is ourselves having this external audit internally, we're extremely committed to doing things as best we can to serve kids and families as best we can. And so that comes with also having an internal evaluator who helps us build, our evaluation within our contract that meet the RBA, which is, how much are we doing? How well are we doing it? Are people better off? And so although there's this external evaluation and audit happening, we're also fulfilling our internal commitment to doing as best we can. And so there's, kind of several pieces to it.
Right, and that's in addition to the task force annual report card on top of those things. All right, I don't see anything more in the chat. Want to make sure that folks have time to ask questions on that. And I'm excited to turn it over to Angelique and James to present to us on the Healthy Children's Fund drop-in care presentation. Angelique and James run Peace Centers. I'll let you guys correct me if I get any of this wrong. They are I consider them to be longtime part of Whatcom County folks that are very interested in child-related matters. And I believe they're rather entrepreneurial in their approach. And I am excited that they obtained this contract. And I'm really excited that they're going to tell us about what they've been able to do with the funds that they've received from the Healthy Children's Fund. So I'll turn it over to you guys. I know you had some slides and want to share some screens, and feel free to build out any part of that intro that I didn't get right, or other information that you'd like us to know about you that is important for you to know, for us to know.
Thanks for that sweet, kind introduction. This is Angelique. Hi, I'm Angelique Burrell. Just a little introduction of Peace Centers. We've been a nonprofit for about 10 years, and we started out as a Montessori school that served all families, no matter of their income. And after COVID happened, we switched gears and became focused on training and teachers and parents. And then we came across the Healthy Children's Fund, and it's where we are now. So you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm James Buckman. We both have masters in education. We're both Montessori trained teachers. Both been doing this over 20 years each, and we were thrilled to be partnering with Sarah and the county to develop this program. I'm going to switch over to our first slideshow. So I have a tendency to talk fast, so Angie created a great slideshow to help us keep in time. Let me move some things around a little bit.
We just had a couple hours this morning to work on it. So please, if you have any questions, write them down and let us know when we're done.
So the idea was that we would create a system, both administrative team and a website, to address the main issue with finding childcare on short notice. Drop-in care is typically reserved for short notice. Hey, something happened. I need a space tomorrow. And that's just not something you can do easily now. You'd have to call up all the providers and hopefully find one that has a space. And when I worked for DCYF doing child welfare work, there were times where I would have to spend nights in hotel rooms with children because there was no safe place to put them. I'd have children in my office because there was no safe place to put them. And this was true for all of the child welfare workers and CPS workers. And it was a really hard thing for us to find safe, high quality spaces for children when we needed them. And so when Angie said, hey, I saw this RFP come through, we should apply for this, I thought, wow, this would address so many things. It's so in line with our nonprofit's mission. And I think that something like this needs to exist. I have a lot of ideas on how to do it. Let's try to work it out. We applied, and of course we got it. So Childcare Spaces is the website part of the administrative team and the website to help link all of the childcare providers in Whatcom County and eventually the nation. But for now, Whatcom County, to find open real-time childcare spaces closest to your home based on your child's age level and their needs. If they have medical need, if they have other needs, you can search these providers and find out if this is a good match for you. So our objectives: help families find drop-in emergency childcare in real time across Whatcom County, provide low-income families financial support to make emergency childcare accessible, help childcare providers post openings in their program for drop-in spaces, support childcare providers with teacher training, parent education classes, educational materials, and I can't read the bottom because, oh, there you are. Space rentals, let me minimize this thing. Boop. Space rentals, financial support, and consulting. So once a provider has given 60 childcare spaces to the community, we provide free teacher training. STARS hours, Angelique is a STARS trainer. We do parent education classes for their community. We can do consulting if they're looking to help expand their program or become a center. We can refer them to CREC, Imagine Institute, the Washington State Department of Commerce, and other financial or support resources available to them to help grow their program, because one of the biggest issues is not just finding drop-in care, there actually being enough spaces. There's over 5,000 children who don't have adequate access to childcare in Whatcom County, and so part of the growth needs to be from actually expansion of childcare. We recently got a phone call from a provider who's opening a new center in Bellingham that wants to dedicate an entire classroom to drop-in care. So it's probably a year away, but like really exciting, and it's starting to spread this interest in drop-in childcare. Oops, I went too far. So currently, we don't have a fully functioning website. It's a very complicated website in order to safeguard everybody's data and for it to work the way that we want. So right now, when users go onto the childcarespaces.com website, there's a form that asks them about if they live and work in Whatcom County, how old their children are, their demographic information about where they live and where they work, and then some information about their children's ages. And then that comes into our new project office manager, Lane. Lane will get them the appropriate paperwork. You know, if they're a foster family, they have something a little different. If they're subsidized, they have something a little different. And if they're private pay, they have something different. Lane will determine what forms they need, send them to them, help the family fill out what they need to fill out. and get access, like we are just recently participating now, so we can get their immunization information from the state of Washington to try to help the process. If they get subsidies, we'll either request that they send us their SNAP forms or their Working Connections forms, or we can do a DSHS authorization check on them if they don't have access to those forms. And then once we get all the paperwork in, then they will be able to register. So at that point, once all of the required documentation that a child care provider needs to register a child has been submitted to us, they can then request spaces. A family a couple weeks ago reached out to us. They were about ready to give birth. They were in a hotel because they were homeless. They needed care for their toddler. And as a result, we were able to get their toddler in care so both parents could be with that child for the birth of their child and not have to take care of a baby and a toddler in a hotel room. So we're already seeing the benefits of helping people in need by having this program. We have Spanish translations of all of our documents, and then we have the tools that we can translate to many languages if needed. Next. So we just talked about that. So the website right now, at the end of this, I'm going to give you guys all a glimpse. Only Sarah, I believe, has seen the
It's
website.
incredible. You're going to show them too?
Oh, yeah, that's part of what I'm going to
Oh,
do.
lucky them.
As long as we have time. So our website developer and I, the last couple of weeks have been really so what we do is we collect all this data and we put it into a spreadsheet. We're then taking that spreadsheet and filling out, basically importing all that data into the website. So all of the data will be preloaded in. So parents and providers don't have to re-enter and input all of this data to make it easy. The goal is to make everything easy for everybody. So we're working on that. And then, so right now there's guardian portals. So that's where the parents, guardians, and then agencies who work with placing children would create an account. In that, they would enter in the children's information, and then so that each guardian will have children linked to it, and then those, as they apply, the children will, because again, you may only want to apply one child for a space, so you choose the child you want to apply, you choose the provider that you want to go to. It sends all of that paperwork, so you only have to fill out every piece of paperwork once, sends it to the provider will review that paperwork, determine if it's a good match for them, and then accept that child, and that child will be registered. So those are the pieces that we're building right now. They are pretty complicated. Our goal is to have a waiting list feature on it, but that might not be in version 1.0. We might have to release that end of summer in 2.0, just so we can have the majority features available as soon as possible. So that's one thing we're waiting on. The second thing we're waiting on is the calendar feature. So the goal would be a guardian would look and see a calendar. So if they don't care what day the care is on, they just know I need care this week. They can see a calendar view versus just I need care next to my house. So that is another feature that he's building in right now. But right now you can create guardian portals, provider portals. You can enter all of your demographic information about yourself or your childcare business. And then you'll be able to search, like if your child has a feeding tube, you can see which childcare providers are willing to work with the children who have a feeding tube. If they are not willing to, we have funding that we can go bring in a nurse or do some sort of training to help train the staff so that they feel comfortable with and will accept a child who has a special medical need. I think that's everything from this. And we talked about that. All right, so we currently have 9 childcare providers across Whatcom County, and we'll go over that list in a second. There are 15, now when we say registered guardians, those are guardians who have completed all of their forms and paperwork and are able to accept spaces. We have lots of other families who have contacted us but have not completed their paperwork. One of the things we have found has been the most challenging is that sometimes when you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a smartphone, you don't have access to get to the libraries, you can't print out forms, you don't know how to use PDF fillable documents and then go to e-sign and have it signed online and send it back to us. Like, these are obstacles to success for some families. So that's one of the reasons why we've had some delays on our website, is because we're trying to make it more user-friendly and easy for guardians who may not have the same tech access. So we're having to have the forms embedded into the site, the signing features in the site, so they don't have to go to some third party to fill out and sign any of these documents, which has taken a bit of a delay. So we have a lot more guardians who are not fully registered, and we're just trying to, like, our office manager will get on the phone with them and fill out the forms for them over the phone if that's what they need. We have 26 children enrolled. We have 9 dedicated spots. And now a dedicated spot is one that a provider, they're reserving for us. And then there's non-dedicated spaces, and that's like, oh, there's an absence tomorrow, we have an opening tomorrow. Or next week, Tommy's going to be gone for a week of vacation, we have a week of preschool spaces available. Those are called the non-dedicated spaces. We have 9 dedicated spaces. The number of filled spaces that we have so far, now we've only got this funding on January 28th, and we have 33 spaces that we filled with children over this time since then.
Well, we haven't been actively recruiting since then. We had to, start with creating the project and the logo and
Forms.
the whole, everything, involved in creating the system.
Enrolling providers first, because you don't want to have parents enrolled before you have
Website,
providers. So, but we've filled 33 children in spaces. So 33 spaces have been filled, and all of those children were low income subsidized children. None of them have been private pay. The providers that we have in Bellingham, we have Generations and Nooksack Salmon Enrichment Association. They're starting right now. Today was NSEA's first day of participating in our program. Generations will be starting very soon. Little Britches, a Child's Life and Garden View Montessori School, are also in Bellingham, who are part of our program. In Ferndale, we have AHA, who have toddler and preschool spaces, and Cozy Bear has an infant space available for us. Cozy Bears also can do nights and weekend care. Sometimes, if you can request it, and if it makes sense for their family, because she's like working all the time, so she has to have some sort of balance. So if she has enough of staffing to deal with it, she can do an overnight or weekend care for somebody, but nobody else in any part of the county is doing that. So that's super exciting. Blaine, we have occasional toddler and preschool spaces, but they're very, very limited to like 1 or 2 days a week. Little Sprouts and Nooksack is only non-dedicated spaces, and they've only had 2 spaces in the last month since we've been working with them because they're so full. But they're actually interested in opening a center and expanding. So we're hoping that will happen to have more space out in that area. So where do we need your help? So now that we have providers enrolled and we're paying for spaces, we need to get the word out as much as possible that this program is available. It's not just for low-income families. Private pay families who need care can take advantage of this. You do not get first priority, but these spaces are still available, and oftentimes they're not used yet because not enough guardians in Whatcom County know that this is available. So if you could spread the word, we attached flyers in the chat that you can download and share with people who might work with people who might take advantage of a program like this.
The family can either work or live in Whatcom County. So even if they don't live in Whatcom County, as long as they work in Whatcom County, because they could bring their child in and drop them off. So.
Correct. And we only work with licensed providers, so they're all good quality, great folks, and super easy to work with, and kind and generous, and really excited about helping. So it's been a real treat to get to meet all these childcare owners and workers. The places that we are really trying to find care now are Linden, Deming, Nooksack, Maple Falls, Everson, Point Roberts, Marietta, Birch Bay, Sun Valley, Acme, and Sumas. We have no spaces available in any of those Nooksack's occasional openings. When we find somebody who's interested, we refer them to CREC, DCYF, and Imagine Institute to do the work. That's not our job. And then we talked a little bit about families that we have supported that have been in need, and we've been able to help them get care so that they could be with their families. Here's what we've been doing to spread the word. We're marketing at the Pickford. We just joined Sustainable Connections to help them with our marketing. Facebook, Instagram, flyers placed around the county, flyers sent to nonprofits, childcare providers, family support organizations, and government agencies. We've been tabling at events that are child and family focused, Procession of Species, East Whatcom Regional Health Fair, Gathering, Kids Fest, Whatcom County Libraries, toy stores, malls, street corners, family-friendly stores, and more. We are having a big event on July 10th from 2:30 to 4:30 at the Bellingham Public Library Central Branch, partnered with Skookum Kids, Animals as Natural Therapy, and the Bellingham Public Library. We have over 10 nonprofits who are also going to table, and those are nonprofits that work with children and families. And there's basically like an animal therapy event and a launch of our web, because by then our website should be completely ready. So it's kind of a official release of our website, help families register. All of the nonprofits who are there will have some sort of arts, crafts, or games for the children to participate in. So we'd love it if you could come. If you want a table, let us know. And hopefully I haven't gone over time. And you have time for questions if you have any.
You have not gone overtime, and I am going to make an executive decision to allow us to go overtime because this is pretty exciting. And I think that just the chat alone has shown how excited everyone and the questions that folks have.
Well, I haven't even
So,
seen any of those yet.
yeah, have you been able to see the chat? Can you? Would it
I
be
can't
easy?
when I'm sharing
Yeah, we'll
screen,
go
so I'm
back.
gonna
Okay.
stop sharing and I'm gonna go back to sharing once I open the website because I want to show you guys the website. Like that's super exciting too.
All right, so let's do, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you in the,
Oh, I'm back and I can read
Yeah,
them
we
now.
can read it
you're
now.
back and you can see the chat. Great.
All right, so Megan, yes, it is really important for us to make sure that we're meeting the needs and acknowledging barriers because like when we first did this, we assumed that what we were doing would make things easy and be helpful, but what we learned is that there are significant barriers to even doing things that we take for granted, like filling out a fillable PDF form and signing something online that not everybody can do, especially the people who need our help the most. And so we got the translation tools and we're building into our systems time for our office manager to just listen to people, fill out the forms and not have to deal with that because like and we found recruited people who are willing to translate for us to call because there are childcare providers who don't speak English at all. And we've been unable to say, hey, there's this great program you can participate in. We'd love to have you in there because they can't. So we've been recruiting people who speak Spanish who can be on the call with us to help translate because we would love to get those programs involved so we can help families who are Spanish speaking more easily. So we're trying to be considerate and we want all of the feedback from everybody to how to make this as useful and helpful as possible.
So our providers enrolled are required to hold a permanent drop-in spot, and are they paid for the spot whether you? So they're not required to hold a drop-in spot. So we kind of talked about the difference between dedicated and non-dedicated. So in order to participate in the program, we ask that they either dedicate or will non-dedicate spots, meaning if there's a family that goes on vacation for a week and then they can open up that spot, or if a family is sick, if a child's sick, they can open up the spot for a day. So when the website's working, they'll have an easy off on switch that they can open up, or close spots, whether they're dedicated or non-dedicated, because we don't want them to feel pressured. So it's a very flexible program that not only supports the families, but makes it easy for the providers because we want them to be supported and stick with us and feel they're very passionate about helping. We were extremely surprised at how easy it's been to get providers signed up and just it's wonderful to see their dedication and their acknowledgement of the challenges that families are having. And yes, they get once we have enough need in a certain area and we start filling their spaces, then they are paid for those spaces no matter whether they're filled or not.
It's really important to us to not waste taxpayer dollars. So we made an agreement with every provider we engaged. We said, look, I don't have enough families signed up right now to be using your care every day. Once we start getting families who want to use care in your neighborhood, then we will start paying you. But can you please be willing to wait for us until that time? Because I just can't pay you for a month. Like it's a lot of money. It's thousands of dollars to pay to hold a spot empty for a month. And we're like, we are you willing? And everybody's been willing to be flexible around that. We are only paying in Bellingham one place every day because we haven't had any requests from any place other than Bellingham so far. And all of the ones we've had are all in Bellingham and they have all gone to one provider because we don't want to keep spending money if we don't need to. So we've been just utilizing the one Bellingham provider. Once people start coming in from other parts of the county, then we'll start paying other providers because we don't want to waste this money. So we want to be really mindful.
We feel like now that we've created, over the last few weeks, we've created a lot of marketing material, and the summer has hit and we're going to start doing a lot of outdoor tabling and events and things like that, that our outreach is going to grow pretty rapidly. So
we hope, we hope we're trying really hard to get the word out. It's hard because we're marketing to private pay families who look at different media and sources, and then these low-income families who look at different stuff. So our marketing has to be diverse, and because we're hitting different people in different places. So it's been a kind of a challenge in some ways, but we have a great marketing plan and what we're doing, and we feel good about it. We've taken some resources from some part of our budget and moved them into marketing because we realize how hard it has been to market and that we need to spend a little bit more money to market. So we are making that shift now.
So James and Angelique, let's do 5 to 7 more minutes.
Okay.
And so you have 2 questions I see on the chat in addition to a ton of shout outs. So hopefully you'll be able to read those and all of the amazing kudos. Megan brings up again, just whether you're registered through the Whatcom Resource Information Cooperative. If you're not, I think, and also reaching out to Megan too. She is the woman you need to know if you want City of Ferndale things to table at the City of Ferndale Summer of Fun. And Christy Dominguez, Dr. Dominguez, has a question there regarding families uploading the necessary medical information and any translation services. I think you answered that in part, but if you want to do a quick one on the uploading and the translation.
Do all families upload all their necessary medical information? So basically, we are collecting all of the forms that childcare providers need to have on file in order to register a child based on DCYF requirements. So that is the childcare registration form, immunization form, or exemption form. It is the if they have any allergens, if they have a plan of care, if they have their photo, video, sunscreen release forms, and then field trip forms if they're specific to providers. And a provider can upload their own forms once the website is done. Right now, we take the forms, we send them to the guardians, they send them back to us signed. When the website is completed, the forms, a provider will put their forms that are required. They will put their policies, procedures into an attestation agreement. So before you can they accept you, you have to accept their policies and procedures. You know, and they would just copy and paste that policies and procedures into a field that then the parent has to attest that I agree to follow these policies and procedures. And we use Google Translate. We have a program called DeepL, DEEPL, for translation. And then again, we have a network of a couple Spanish translators so far that are willing to help us with calls to families or calls to providers. And if those needs grow and we have other languages we need, we'll try to seek translation services, either paid or through volunteers, to help with addressing those.
We make it really easy for providers and families just to have to deal with one set of paperwork, and it just lives in the portal, and then it's accessible to all the providers. And they're all standardized, required by licensing, and so it just makes it easy.
And if a provider has a special form that is not standard, which some have,
We'll just add it.
they just add it to their forms, and then those forms they would have to fill them out to apply for a space in their program.
And did you guys want to show us the website?
We
Is
sure
that
will.
part of it?
There is one mother, our contract is only non-school age, birth to 5. So I have it in my contract that it says 0 to 6, so we should chat about that.
Oh, no, it's under the age of 6. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just easier to explain to everyone birth to 5. So that's why I did. Yeah. And while Angelique and James are pulling this up, I just want to say, it takes, I think, some really courageous, brave, creative people to do something like this. It's so new. There's not programs to look to, and it's been really exciting. And I just have so much confidence in them. As you can see, they've done so much in such a short period of time, and it's only just going to continue to expand. And we've continued to be in conversation about how we can help them with marketing. And so working on something right now to hopefully go out countywide. But I'm just so impressed and pleased, and what an incredible resource in our community for families.
And Sarah, was this a specific RFP for drop-in, or was this out of the innovation?
Yeah, it was a specific RFP for drop-in. Yeah. It looks like Susan has a question. Susan, I saw your question in the chat about case managers. Is that your question?
You're on mute.
Okay. Yes, that's one of my questions, but I actually have another one. So also, I have a lot of windows and the lights driving me nuts, so sorry. One is, I could see like a lot of people who like case managers, advocates who would be helping people sign up for this. And I'm wondering if there's a way for them to register so they can just do some searching on their end before, to help someone do it, or if they would have to sit specifically with each parent. And then my other question is, can it be like short-term care? Like I'm thinking, maybe someone has an appointment for like 3 hours or has to go to court and don't want to bring their kids, can someone sign up for just a few hours at a time, or are you paying for a full day at a time?
Great questions. So the first one, so we have agency accounts for organizations like Skookum Kids, where you can register and then have multiple children who, so say you manage the cases of a variety of children, you can enter all of those children and then you can book spaces for all of those different children. So yes.
Basically, you would sign up under the Guardian portal, so the organization, the support organization, and then you'd have multiple children under you.
Looking for a place, like I can imagine DCF wanting one, DCYF, I can imagine Skookum wanting one, etc. if you're looking for placements. And the second question again was
The how long. So the goal is it's short-term emergency, but that can mean really a lot of different things, whether it's a half day, a full day, a week, maybe up to a month, depending on if a family is on a waiting list for childcare somewhere, or there could be all kinds of reasons why they might need longer than a day or a week. After a month, we like to have a discussion with the family, make sure they have a plan of what they're doing, and if they need continued support, that they're getting the right resources and they have a plan in place. And so that's kind of the different options there.
Yeah, because unfortunately in this state, if you lose your job, you lose your childcare, because Working Connections requires you to work. So we understand that sometimes a situation occurs and you're gonna need to start applying for jobs so that you can get your Working Connections back. So if you need it for a longer period of time, you can. And if you need it for a shorter period of time, not every provider does half day. And so we can request a half day. Like right now, our NSEA camp is only half day. It's 8:30 to 12:30 for the rest of the summer. So if you're looking for a half day spot, NSEA is a great option for that.
But in general, most providers in their policy and procedure page that they give us to have parents sign, they have a drop off and a pickup time, because they don't want the community to be disrupted, during nap or come in late. And so that's a really big, as teachers ourselves, for 20 years, we really understand how hard this can be for teachers and providers and admins. And so we've thought about everything, to make it successful for them. And so the policy and procedure, most of them have, drop off, by 9 and pick up after 2, or if it's a half day, 12 o'clock. So there's not really that option for 1 or 2 hours. It's more of a half day.
Yeah, definitely 1 or 2 hours you'd be paying for a half day if the provider, like I know one provider in particular only wants full days. And if you want to book with them, we pay for the full day and you use many hours and you just pick up and drop off within the windows that they want. But that's just the way it is, because they don't do half days. So
you guys, this is clearly biggest misstep of this meeting was not scheduling these guys for an hour, right? Because you are like, we are the people that love the people, that it is the Mutual Admiration Society going on right here. So I have a couple of ideas. One is I would like them, I would like to see be able to see the website. I want to be respectful. We have Kayla ready to present. And 2, send any of the co-chairs or Allison message. We could ask James and Angelique to come back. And at the same time, I think some of you just have synergies and have practical questions. So hopefully this results in an amazing marketing opportunity for you guys, James and Angelique. So people could always reach out to you directly and we'll make sure you get the information. So I'll let you give us a quick look of the website, and then we'll pass the baton to Kayla.
Okay, office@childcarespaces.com if you have more questions. So here is the main page. Now, this is not what you see right now. This is the secret. Okay, this is the page that is not available to the world right now. This is what it's going to look like when it releases. So you can search by your address to see, okay, so Little Sprouts, 8 miles away, 10 miles away, you get a map. Now, once this is fully functional, you'll be able to sort by age groups, the date of care that you need. You'll be able to, the main searches are search by location, your workspace or your home, or you're staying at grandma's and you need to go search for a place somewhere different. So there's default address, home address and work address that will search by, or you can enter your own custom address.
Showing things that aren't part of our program.
I'm sorry, what?
This is not showing all the registered childcare spaces.
Yeah, these are all providers in Whatcom County. And then when you log in So I'm gonna log in first as a guardian. So now this is my guardian account. Again, I can search right off the main page. I go into my account. Okay, and then here's my demographic information, my profile, am I a parent, am I an agency or my legal guardian, am I private pay? If I'm DSH subsidies, enter your client ID so we can search for you, your home address, work address, phone number. And then if you are a split family, you can add an additional user. So like right now, Angelique is my second user, and then she would set up her account, and then we would both have shared access to those children for placement. Same thing as if you're a foster family or if you're a agency like Skookum, you can link children through the software. This is another thing that took a little bit more time, but it's really important that the children have multiple ways in which they can have be placed, and that people know where the children are at any one time. So this is a way to keep track of different users. Form, so the child care registration form, it's been signed and completed. You click on the PDF and it pops open the form that you filled out. I didn't fill it out because I'm not for real. And then children, you can add children, edit your children here, their date of birth, etc. So that is what we have for the portal for guardians. The one thing, again, the calendar view is not done yet. That will be able to see a calendar. They'll click on the date they want care. They'll see which providers have care. So now log in as a provider. So here's our Peace Centers account. So we have our dashboard. This is where you can change your password. There's your profile. You tell about your business. Are you licensed? Again, if you have multiple users, there's no forms for this yet because we don't need them. Your address, your business hours, the age groups which you serve, your daily financial rates, and your policies and procedures here. And this is what the portal will look like for Guardian. And again, they will have a calendar view too. And that's where they will click on the day and add the spaces or remove the spaces that they want to. And that is childcarespaces.com right now after only a couple months of building.
Amazing. Thank you.
And we are
Spectacular.
4:30.
All the emojis. Love it.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Well, and I know that this group is going to definitely be reaching out for specific needs and questions and all of it, but yeehaw, hallelujah, all the things. So, Kayla, are you ready to start the presentation? A bit late on new jail development presentation. I am going to let you know that we just need a few minutes on that task force tabling opportunity, and we might shorten the task force issues update to just create room to make sure Kayla can give her full presentation.
That sounds good. And I'll be fairly brief and then leave time for questions mostly. It's hard to follow that. I mean, like going from talking about this really innovative, awesome, Healthy Children's Fund service to talking about building a jail is kind of jolting. So I'll ask everyone to bear with me as we sort of change our frame, and also just want to thank Peace Centers for their amazing work. It is really, really exciting. And I feel like these are exactly the types of services that the community was calling for when they voted for the Healthy Children's Fund. So it feels really good to see it. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Kayla Schott-Bressler. I'm a deputy executive here at Whatcom County, and part of my role is overseeing our work on the Justice Project here at the county. I am having some display issues, so I'm just gonna, can you all see that?
We can't see anything right now, Kayla.
You can't see anything. Okay.
No, we can see you.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to share screen.
Your screen, yep, you're coming up now.
Okay, I'm trying to, yeah, hold on, sorry. Just bear with me one second.
We now see the presenter mode. It's really hard when you have multiple screens to do the Zoom. At least that's what I experienced, but we can see your, without your notes, we can see like the version you're probably hoping us to see.
Okay, so it's working okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so as I was saying, I am part of my role is overseeing our Justice Project implementation, and I'm working really closely with our facilities team on the construction of the jail project, and then really working closely as well with the health department, community partners, and others on the behavioral health and incarceration prevention components of the Justice Project. This presentation is specifically about the construction of the jail and the behavioral care center. I understood there's a desire to hear an update about where we're at and like where there might be opportunities for public comment. So I will start there. I was gonna just launch in to sort of our construction timeline, but realized I just want to orient everyone to the Justice Project and jail generally. Many of you know a lot, but so as you may remember, there was a 0.2% sales tax approved in 2023 to fund both the construction of the new jail and behavioral care center and sort of long-term incarceration prevention and behavioral health interventions in Whatcom County. In the short term, the bulk of the revenue is going towards sort of saving for that jail construction and behavioral care center construction. And then in the long term, we're going to see service investments alongside debt payments for the capital construction project we anticipate completing in a few short years here. As we think about the jail and behavioral care center, we have a few commitments to the public that are sort of driving the project. First, we've been working with the cities to sort of negotiate co-funding this project. And one of the city's main requests of the county was that the jail be adequately sized to afford booking restrictions. And so we have this commitment that we don't want to have open a new jail just to see booking restrictions or overcrowding on day one. So that's sort of one of the principles we're holding. And we don't want to spend so much money on the jail that it's jeopardizing our ability to invest and use that sales tax revenue for services long term. So that's sort of a cap on the budget we can afford and ultimately the size of this facility. And so sometimes those two things are in tension, but that's the framework we're working under as we guide this project. So this is the largest capital project Whatcom County has ever undertaken. And so though we have a lot of really competent and capable staff working on this every day, we were also bringing in outside specialized support. We this year hired a project management firm. You'll probably hear them in public presentations about the jail. Their name's STV. They have a lot of public sector capital project experience, nationally recognized, particularly in the justice market. And then here locally in Whatcom County, they've worked on a lot of school construction projects. They specialize in alternative delivery of projects, which means it's not a typical construction project where we are hiring a architectural firm to do the design, completing that process, and then hiring a contractor based on low bid. We're running a design process sort of concurrent with having that general contractor on board. It's called progressive design build. And for these complex public works projects, this is increasingly becoming the norm. So this year we got approval from the state of Washington to undertake that structure for this project. And with STV on board, we're in the process of procuring our design builder. So this will be the design team and construction team, and we expect to have them on board by the end of August. We're working on our internal sort of organization. So we've hired staff, we've developed a communications plan for how we roll this project out. That's everything from communicating internally amongst ourselves to communicating with our advisory boards, like the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force, eventually communicating with the neighbors around the site and everyone in between. So lots of different stakeholder groups we'll be working with. We're also working on finalizing our jail capacity analysis. So we hired an outside expert to sort of tell us what they think the size of the jail needs to be. And so we actually have a discussion with the county council tomorrow on that in the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee, if anyone wants to tune in. We are spending a lot of time sort of worrying about money and sales tax projections. And so we're monitoring revenues and presenting that information to our Finance and Facilities Advisory Board, which is sort of the main advisory body monitoring the capital construction of this project. And then this summer, we're working to develop the behavioral care center model. And so that's teams from the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, the IPRTF, Health and Community Services, to think about what the behavioral care center is. This is really around diversion from jail. And so we're looking to figure out whether is this facility in custody, out of custody, is it an inpatient treatment facility? Is it more custodial in nature, and trying to get community input on what that looks like. This was a core component of sort of the ballot initiative, was that we are not just building a jail, but we're building an alternative to jail as well, with the hope that particularly low-level felonies could be diverted to an alternative type facility. So you'll see in this picture, this is the Finance and Facility Advisory Board meeting. So you'll see staff from us, you'll see the sheriff, Executive Sadu, our public defender, community members, the Bellingham Police Chief. So this is the group that's meeting monthly to work on this project. This is our timeline for the project. So you can see there's been a lot of activity this year so far, and that we're in this really intense phase this summer where we're hiring the design builder. You don't need to read all the fine print. It's not going to be particularly interesting to you. And then we are doing this behavioral health kickoff and working on our communications plan and commitments to one another on the project team. And then next year, and even later this year is when we're really going to start the design phase and the community engagement phase in earnest. There's a lot of expectations around therapeutic design for this facility, as well as integration of services. So we're trying to figure out, what does the process look like for engagement with the public on those issues, as well as the engagement with the end users of this facility and the sheriff's office in particular. It is a lot to design a jail. There's everything from what operational model are we going to use? Are we going to be sort of having corrections deputies in pods with the inmates interacting? Are they going to be in sort of a control tower internal to the facility watching folks? What are the staff ratios? So these are all things that over the course of the next year, we're going to be working out, and then that will help inform the design of the facility. I hear a lot that the community is interested in this project, that they don't feel like we're communicating enough about it, and that they want to have an opportunity to weigh in. But I'm not totally clear on what is most interesting to folks and what folks want to weigh in on. Is it the size of the facility? Is it how's the facility designed? What are the services that are provided over time? So in our discussion today, I'm really eager to hear from you. What is it that the community wants to know, so we can bring everybody along and make sure folks are able to influence the project at the right times. We are going to be launching a new page to track Justice Project progress, as well as working on launching a newsletter starting in August that will provide interested stakeholders updates on the projects. You'll probably see a ramp up of social media activity around that as well. And then ultimately we anticipate there being public facing dashboards with timelines, as well as the public's ability to access information about construction costs as we go forward. The revenue picture for this project is likely to be challenging. We are not feeling particularly optimistic about sales tax. We're already just in the last year seeing sales tax come in about $1 million below our projections. And though the costs of this facility are not going to be known until we get a little bit further in the design phase, we originally anticipated that this facility would have a $155 million budget. We think that's going to be tough to complete it for that amount. And so there's going to be some hard decisions our elected officials have to make next year around scope and size of the facility, what sort of services we want, and whether or not the jurisdictions, mostly the cities who are involved in this project, are sort of willing to dedicate tax revenue for longer in order to not sort of skip on the project or jeopardize our ability to provide the incarceration prevention and behavioral health services to the community. So these are all the issues that our policymakers over the next year are going to be wrestling with. And when you see presentations to the Finance Board or IPRTF or County Council from our office on jail-related topics, these are a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about. Ultimately, we want to build a jail that is not sort of oversized for our needs, and is able to really have service integration. So not only are we like doing all the things we've committed to on the reentry front, but we are also having like at booking really comprehensive sort of diversion reviews and making sure that we can design a system that works for Whatcom County and avoiding unnecessary incarceration at every sort of intercept point, whether that be sort of pre-arrest on the street with a crisis responder, at arrest, at booking. Like, how can we try to get people out of the justice system who don't need to be there and are better suited to perhaps sort of be receiving healthcare services than involved in the justice system. And so this is a diagram of diversion sort of intercept points that we're considering for the behavioral care center, which is that diversion facility. And you can see there's like pre-arrest diversion that occurs before someone even would ever come to jail. There's diversion after arrest, but prior to someone sort of getting really embroiled in the court and justice system. You can get diversion after someone's been charged, but before they've sort of had traditional case processing. And then of course, once someone's sort of more involved, but prior to conviction, there's diversion opportunities. We prefer to divert as early as possible, but we also know that folks, there's missed opportunities along the way because the system's not really good at supporting folks. And then what you can see on the top is some modeling we're working on related to payment options for the behavioral care center operations based on when the diversion happens. So one of the really interesting tasks we're wrestling with right now is trying to get consensus amongst all of our elected officials on whether this behavioral care center is like an incarceral facility or whether it's basically an inpatient treatment facility that the prosecutor has the opportunity to divert to. So like, are people technically incarcerated when they're in that facility? And there are a lot of different payment structures based on how we make that choice. And it will significantly influence not only sort of the individual experience of someone going through the system, but also sort of what other services we can afford to provide with the sales tax revenue over time. So this is definitely a question that public input is useful on, and happy to answer questions about that as well, though I'm not the expert. And that is it. And I really tried to focus this on the highlights of like where there is now an opportunity for input and engagement, rather than sort of the longer term construction trajectory of the project, but curious to hear more about what you're interested in and happy to answer any questions.
Folks, this is our shot, so let's go for it. I know I have personally, my question is, well, first, thank you for coming. Thank you for accommodating the fact that we had to kick you out. And thank you for crunching a lot of information into a really short period of time. So when I think about the task force role is that we are to make recommendations regarding Whatcom County government as it in fact impacts children and families. And to me, one of the key elements of this construction needs to be how we're going to create opportunities for families to be able to meet and have contact and have safe spaces at this facility. So yeah, Allie put it perfectly. Curious about family separation, visitation, and what plans look like to have spaces and policies that allow family connection.
Yeah, that's great. So that's super helpful and great that this group could be sort of a body that would be advising us during the design phase of this project on that. I think that is sort of not yet something that we are working on, but as we get into sort of the fourth quarter of this year and early 2026, when we look about sort of designing specific phases of these facilities, we're going to be consulting with a lot of different stakeholders, right? Like, so we're going to talk to the public defender around what the client meeting room spaces look like. So this could be a group that we or am noting now, this is a group we will reach out to during that period who may be interested in looking at that. I would also say at any time, if the group wants to write a letter to the county council or county executive about what or the sheriff or all three, about what your expectations are for how that space meets the needs of families, or how our broader landscape of the site meets the needs of children who might be visiting. That would be very welcome, very helpful, and it would be particularly helpful if it combines sort of the local perspective and opinion of this group, as well as sort of any information you have on national best practice for designing these facilities to best meet the needs of children and families. So we will take that letter anytime if that's of something that you all want to do. And absent that, we would be happy to sort of consult you, whether that's through a focus group or a survey. We could sort of figure out with what makes sense from our design team.
Any other questions for Kayla, even in the chat or directly? Allison Williams, Al.
Thanks. Thanks, Kayla, for that. It's great to have that update. I have a question. When this task force was first formed, I had reached out to folks at the jail just to have an understanding for this task force around parents who are incarcerated, just having an idea of numbers, either custodial or non-custodial parents during pregnancy, the age of their kids. And I know there's a data subcommittee for the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force, but I don't think I've ever really seen what those numbers look like as we think about supports for folks when they're either re-entering or supports that could be in the jail. I know that I presented at our last meeting on the doula project, and there are a couple of contracted doulas that are interested in providing doula services to someone who's incarcerated during their pregnancy and childbirth. So that was one question, just about what data and what we understand about that. And then because Sterling is sitting next to me, I'm going to turn to him because it probably popped into his head too, of just the diversion points. And he and I have long thought about that sort of model, but thinking about the diversion of windows of opportunity when we're specifically thinking about the families that this task force are concerned about, and these distinct windows of opportunity to intervene in a family's life. And I'll let Sterling
just
join in.
Remind people, if parenting being incarcerated is one of the 10 adverse childhood experiences. It is part of one of the ways that children are put in situations where they end up not living as long as children who don't have that same childhood experience.
So when we're thinking of prioritizing or triaging strategies for support, just thinking of not only those early diversion points, but also those windows of opportunity in a family's life that we can really go further upstream.
So solely because we are running short on time, and not because I like to hear the sound of my own voice, which you probably get that I don't mind it at the same time. Kayla, I look at this and I say, what is our role? Our role is to recommend policy and guide the county. And this to me is one of the biggest things that you already said. It's the biggest project Whatcom County is going to do. It is going to have a direct impact on children and families. And at the same time, we don't know what we don't know. Like, we don't know, do we need to send up a flare? Do we need to show up at that council meeting? Is this the point where they're going to be talking about diversion programs? Is the point where we can have input? So I think part of our ask, part of our tell to the executive's office is we see ourselves as having a vital role and a large voice in this, because it is specifically within our task force role to do so. And so we ask you to ask us and let us know when that time is right, because we are a group of volunteers and we don't always know when we can interject.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Sally. I would say right now, the biggest place where I see, like this summer, the biggest sort of policy decision point is really around the model for this behavioral care center. If this group wants to weigh in on that, I think like this summer is the right time to do that. Then there's going to be sort of, I think, a lull in things that this group might want to weigh in on. And then as we get towards like this winter, if folks have specific opinions around how spaces, like, I'm trying to craft it less specifically about like how spaces are sized, but like, these are the types of services we think are really important to have in the jail, or this is the type of visitation, or this is what we want to make sure the architectural program considers. Like, we want the dispute resolution centers program to be able to be there. Just like sort of providing a list of those types of things to us, sort of, I think probably any time before this, like January-ish, will be helpful. We can take that. I think ultimately we are going to face a lot of really hard choices about cost of this project. And so many things are going to be in tension. But I think later this year is the right time to offer that feedback.
Okay, and so when you say this summer is the time with regard to input on the behavioral center, would that be a letter, then that letter that you recommended where we might be able to look into that and provide a recommendation regarding design and development of that as it relates to children and family?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm struggling a little bit with the best sort of process for this, because I think, like, Jennifer asked a good question about whether there's a seat on the IPRTF. Like, we have a committee that is involved in making recommendations specifically on sort of this facility and our incarceration prevention, reduction, diversion programs. And so it's like, how does this group interplay with the conversations that are happening there? And I don't really have a good answer to that question.
I appreciate that. Well, that might be one of our jobs, is to figure out how we let that task force know that we would like them to be looking to us to weigh in on some of those things, in addition to letting our own voice be heard. Okay, so we are at 4:55. Thank you, Kayla, and everyone. I'm sure that we can have Kayla come back. We can reach out for do other things. So we are skipping work updates, although Colton, you and I, we could maybe send out an email, because I know that another big thing that is happening in the county right now is the rewrite of the new comprehensive plan for the county, which is going to impact children and families. And we're also at a loss of how we get our voice heard and do that sort of thing. So we'll follow up maybe with an email on that, or how we might weigh in as a task force. The task force tabling opportunity, you already heard from the amazing James and Angelique, and we had the best time at the East County tabling, where we had a tree that was very cool, and we asked families what would they look like for them to thrive in Whatcom County. It was just the task force showing up and wanting to listen to our fellow community members. We could do that again, and this time it might not be raining, because it'll be July 10th, but it is in Bellingham, so it might be raining, so we don't know. So what I would ask is that folks let us know if they can participate in that. Yeah, there's our tree. It was super fun. We had a blast. So we're going to do some sort of sign up. Hopefully, folks, you could come in, you could stay for an hour, and you just get to talk to the community. It's so fun. It's so great. Okay, I am making room now for public comment. We have 3 minutes for public comment. Do we have anyone from that? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in the room for public comment?
We have public, no. So if
Okay.
you want to talk more about the tabling event, and if someone hops on, we can make space for that, but with the last 5 minutes.
Okay, that'd be amazing. Oh, Colton has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. I just wanted to follow up real quick on the comp plan while we have a couple minutes here. So I had a chat with the Planning Commission's secretary, essentially, and got roped in an email with Mark Personius. There might be a listening session in the next 2 months, and I know we're not meeting in July. There might be a public comment opportunity, and I'll let folks know if that happens. There's a big question mark there. I'm just curious how we want to move forward as a group. I can certainly send that opportunity out and we can speak in our individual capacities, but I know generally there's been a norm if anyone wants to speak on behalf of the task force that we vote to authorize somebody to do that. So if by some chance that happens and we see a draft of the chapter and we could provide a comment, do we just want to, just in case, designate myself and some other folks who might be interested to go and speak on behalf of the task force on that, or do you just want to keep it real informal, speak on our personal, in our personal capacities? Does everyone have an opinion on that?
As per usual, I have an opinion on everything. So I don't think that, I don't know, I would not feel comfortable designating anyone to speak on behalf of the task force if we didn't know, if the task force hadn't, as a majority, voted in favor as to what the talking points are. And then the timing might be tricky because we don't have a meeting in July. We don't meet until August. But is there a way, Allison, to, like, if we sent out it, if we knew about it and folks are willing to comment on it, that we can get email approval on anything?
Not email approval, it would have to be like a special meeting that we pull together, and we would have to be able to make quorum for that.
Okay, that makes sense. So then what might be most appropriate, if by some chance before the August 25th meeting, they schedule the public comment, I can make sure that the task force sees what chapter that is and highlight which which recommendations didn't get included in that. And then if we want to pull together like an informal work group, a little study session, I'm happy to organize that. And then we can, folks who are interested could give comment in their personal capacity on whatever points that they want. Does that jive with folks? Sound like a good plan, just in case?
Yeah, and if there is something you guys, the small work group pulls together and you decide you want the whole task force to vote on, we could pull together a meeting just for a vote. That's a very short meeting. It doesn't need to be this entire hour and a half. It can be just enough folks to make quorum vote and then we can close it up.
Can I
love
comment? I
that.
raised my hand. Can I comment? Sorry,
Oh,
I'm driving.
Sorry, I thought it was a thumbs up, but yes, please.
Okay. So in the past, we've done these kinds of letters and we just get approval. We like vote for approval from the task force. Like right now, we could do that for like the letter and then the group that you were talking about. Like it could be for the jail and the thing Colton's talking about, two things. And then we send out a draft to everyone with several days for people to comment. And then we would come back together just to vote, like a 15-minute or half-hour meeting just to vote. So we can move forward, because if we don't do something, we might lose that opportunity. And then my final thing, so I'm wondering if we should do that. Yes, please. And then also, I'm just wondering about hearing back from Kayla about if we can get into those groups so we have a consistent voice there, since it's one of the number one, I think the number one priority of our county government. They declared children and families. Then seems like a seat on that group might be a good thing if possible. Anyway, that's my comment, and thank you for all the work you're doing, everybody who's leading us now.
That is awesome. So I think I hear a general rough consensus that if something comes up, Colton has volunteered, thank you so much, to keep his eye on that. And then to pull together a small group, that a group could be, a draft could be sent out, ask for comment, and then before it was provided or presented, we could find a way to have a short meeting on a vote. And I don't think we need a vote right now to say that that would work. I think that that's probably just logistically the reality. As for Jen's other, and I apologize, Jen, if you go by Jennifer, but anyway, Jen, other question on whether this group could have a seat on a different task force. Is that
I don't know. I don't think it's a task force. I think that might be a misconception. If there's the incarceration reduction task force, that would be fine if they wanted to welcome us. I wouldn't like force our way in, but we could offer to lend our voice. But if there's like internal meetings happening, I feel like it would absolutely be an appropriate place for us, given the county's stated commitment to children and families. So I'm just going to put that out there. And I don't comment all the time, but I feel pretty strongly about community voice and the power of this task force. So that's why I'm chiming in, because I love the families of our community and I want to see the jail be as gentle on children and as it can be.
Does anyone on the call or on the group know the answer to Jen's question? I don't know. I don't know what, I hear it as an ask. And so, I'm gonna do two things. One, if someone knows the answer, that we provide it. If not, then let's put it on the agenda to talk about just a continuing agenda item about how to elevate our task force voice in the jail, and that might be one of those other places for opportunity. Great, and we are at 5:03. We had no public comment, so I am officially adjourning the meeting. I really thank everybody. What a great, robust meeting. What a way to kick off the summer. And don't we wish that the jail were actually a great big childcare facility? Wouldn't that have been a better way to go about this? But it's not, so we're gonna play the cards we're dealt and go from there. Happy summer, everybody. Hope I get to see you around town. Bye.
Hey, Sally, just real
Yes.
quick. One of the IPRTF co-chairs is Heather Flaherty. And folks who know Heather was a
Okay.
big advocate for the Healthy Children's Fund. So that's a great avenue to work with Heather to bring the issues that this body cares about into that work.
Love it. That's a great insight for us, and maybe we can even have Heather come in and talk to us at one of our next meetings about how to further elevate our voice.
Great. Thanks.
Great. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
So proud of this team. Not only did we keep quorum, we kept quorum 5 minutes late.
I know, that was impressive. I just
Showed up at